I think it's important to realize that the crypto winter is not just a crypto winter. There are major economic difficulties around the world, which are the consequence of inflation, as well as wars that have started and, of course, are come higher in the minds of many users as priorities or sources of concerns compared with blockchain games or DeFi investments.
That was Ken Timsit from Cronos Labs, which is a Web3 startup accelerator focusing on decentralized finance and blockchain games and on the development of the Cronos chain ecosystem. So in today's episode, I want to be learning a little bit more about the first EVM-compatible Layer 1 blockchain network built on the Cosmos SDK and how Ken has been instrumental in steering the platform through exponential growth. Because since its inception back in, I think it was November 21, Cronos has defied market volatility, witnessing a 600% increase in on-chain transactions and quadrupling its unique user base to over 1.1 million. What's more, the Cronos ecosystem now supports 500 decentralized applications, or dApps as they're better known. And today, we'll talk about this incredible growth, what made it possible, as well as the role of that Cronos Labs Accelerator Program in fostering innovations in DeFi and blockchain games, as well as other emerging niches like GameFi and SocialFi. So what can you expect? Well, we're going to dive into the broader industry outlook, focusing on the intersection of AI and blockchain, a subject which is becoming increasingly pivotal as these technologies not only mature, but converge too. So whether you're a blockchain enthusiast, an investor, or just someone intrigued by these rapid technological advancements we're witnessing, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to navigate you through an enlightening journey through the ever-evolving world of blockchain technology. But enough rambling from me. Buckle up and hold on tight, because no matter where you're listening in the world, it's time for me to beam your ears all the way to Paris, where Ken is waiting to join us today. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, Neil. Thank you very much for having me on this show. So my name is Ken Timsit, and I lead Cronos Labs, a Web3 startup incubator and accelerator that is investing in startups around decentralized finance and blockchain gaming. And as the name indicates, Cronos Labs mostly focuses, but not exclusively, on the Cronos blockchain, which is a top 10 layer 1 blockchain that is EVM-compatible.
And I was reading before you came on the podcast today, I think you joined Cronos Labs I think it was November 2021, which was right in the middle of the pandemic and a pivotal time for the company as well. So I feel there's got to be a story there. What was it that drove you to take the reins, and what was your initial vision for the company?
I had been working in crypto and in the Ethereum, the broader Ethereum ecosystem for 5 years at that point. And 2021 was really a period of mainstream adoption, if you recall.
Yeah.
Very, very rapid growth of the number of active users on every blockchain network. And after having worked deep in the technology, I felt that it was the time to contribute and participate in mainstream adoption of this technology and its use cases. I think for many years we were wondering what were the use cases for blockchain, for that technology. We were at a point where that wasn't in doubt anymore. And I think DeFi in particular has proven its value added and resilience. And so then the question became, how do I participate in mainstream adoption? And there were a few convictions that I had at the time when the Cronos project started and when I joined the project. So one was that, of course, on the side of Ethereum, which offers the highest possible degree of security and decentralization, there was a need for ecosystems with very cheap transactions and carbon neutral footprint. So that was a condition for adoption. The second conviction was that we needed strong partnerships with regulated on-ramps, so regulated points of contact with the traditional financial world and the banking system. Of course, I believe that blockchain networks as open source protocols shouldn't be regulated, but of course, the on-ramps and off-ramps into those ecosystems are increasingly regulated, and that's the right approach. And finally, each of those ecosystems needed to have safe and easy to understand ecosystem of applications working on top of them. And so that was the motivation for joining the Cronos project, right? So cheap and carbon neutral transactions, regulated points of contact with the banking world, and safe and easy to understand applications. And I think focusing on meeting those conditions was from the start the vision of the Cronos chain and its ecosystem, and Cronos Labs as an incubator and accelerator. And I think so far we've delivered on those dimensions. So transactions on Cronos are 1 or 2 cents for basic transactions. Cronos is carbon neutral. It has a strong partnership with Crypto.com, one of the most regulated exchanges around the world, with 80 million users. And so that's a key enabler of our appeal for mainstream users. And finally, Cronos has 500 active applications in its ecosystem, and among that, many that we work hard with to ensure that they are safe and easy to understand for users.
And your vision and approach really seems to be paying off, because one of the things that set off my tech spidey sensors and put you guys on my radar was when I read that the company has seen a 600% increase in on-chain transactions in just 1 year. Oh, it's just phenomenal. So I'm curious, what would you attribute the key factors behind this exponential growth?
3 main factors. First, ease of access for new crypto users. So, of course, the typical journey of a user who's interested in crypto will always be that they start by becoming a customer of a custodial exchange, a regulated exchange. And so that's not where Cronos and its applications are playing. But as those users become more comfortable with crypto and understand the merits of self-custody, that's when they start exploring self-custodial decentralized applications and making sure that the access to those self-custodial decentralized applications is as easy as possible. I think that has been a major factor. And our partnership with Crypto.com, the integration of Cronos Network into various products that they offer to their large global user base has definitely been a determining factor in that respect. Second factor was the work that we do with independent app developers to make sure that there's a good selection of safe and easy to use applications. And number 3, and that's also related to the second one, is I think we pay a lot of attention to what end users are looking for at any given point in time. And we create incentives through various programs to make sure that there are developers building to meet those user needs and those, the hot topics of the moment. So for example, right now, users are looking for yield on stablecoin. They are looking for what we call liquid staked tokens. So those are synthetic versions of tokens that have been locked into staking protocols. Those tokens are able to generate yield for users, but while at the same time being available for use for trading and other decentralized finance applications. And so we identified early on, for example, that this was a need and demand from the end user side, and we worked on various programs to incentivize developers to build applications that meet those needs. So a recent example is an application called Vino on Cronos that offers various types of stake tokens in a liquid form, exactly meeting those needs that we had identified together with the ecosystem.
And another thing that I was reading before you came on the podcast today was that your program is now accepting applications for its 3rd cohort. Specifically, I've got to ask, what is the focus this time around? Are there any key trends or highlights from this round of applications that you are able to share with us today?
Overall, the Accelerator program continues to invest in DeFi, GameFi, and the supporting infrastructure. For this cohort, which is the third cohort taking applications right now, we've added two areas of focus. So what the first area of focus is, I think that nowadays venture capital investors tend to invest more in infrastructure than in end user applications. And therefore, there is a gap that we need to fill to make sure that there is funding and support available for builders of end user applications, not just tools and infrastructure. And so we are putting a great deal of emphasis in that for this cohort, particularly in DeFi, but also in GameFi. And the second differentiating characteristic of this cohort is that we're also explicitly asking founders to incorporate AI technology into their products as much as possible, because we believe that AI is a necessary component of any tech stack. And applications that don't incorporate that technology from early on run the risk of not being as productive or user-friendly as applications who do. So AI is another area of focus for us. And that it's really AI across the board. So AI can be used to streamline or user interfaces or make them more appealing, for example, with chatbots and various types of interfaces that use natural language. AI can also be used to enhance risk management and fraud or bot detection. So, for example, we're talking to a company which is using AI to identify bots or fraudulent users and ensure that NFT drops, for example, or token drops for DeFi protocols remain relatively safe from civil attacks from those actors. And finally, we're also working with startups that use a technology called ZKML that makes machine learning and language models available to smart contracts, or that use computer vision to measure the sports activities completed by end users and to create rewards for those sports activities.
And just to further bring this to life and allow anybody listening just to see the bigger picture here, can you also tell me a little bit more about how the Cronos Labs blockchain startup accelerator has actually contributed to the surge in the number of unique users and the development of something like, I think, 500 plus dApps on the Cronos chain? Because that seems to be where the magic happens, right?
Most of those 500 applications are completely independent. Came out of a grassroots effort by the community to create their own applications and try their hand at entrepreneurship. However, I think among those 500 applications, probably 30 of them have been sponsored or supported in some explicit way by one of the programs of Cronos Labs. And this has been a way for us to, first of all, ensure that we convey a message that Cronos Labs have to meet a certain standard in terms of clarity about what they're doing, security of smart contracts. There are some audit requirements as well. So by insisting that Cronos supported dApps meet those quality and safety requirements, I think we have encouraged the whole ecosystem to see those requirements as standards. So I think that has contributed a lot to the growth of the ecosystem and the perception of Cronos as a relatively safe and sound application ecosystem. And of course, when you look at the Accelerator program, we're making sure that we support developers not just with financial stipends, but also with advice on how to go to market, how to partner with other apps in the ecosystem. And as a result, we've seen many apps supported by Cronos reach the top position in terms of number of users and total value locked within our ecosystem. So I could mention a few applications like VVS or Fulcrum or Vino, which are incubated applications. And amongst the graduates of the accelerator program, I can think of Corgi AI, Earn Network, Eisen Finance, and Bubble Maps as examples of startups who have really taken that advice on board to achieve product market fit quickly and meet their user base thanks to our advice.
And one of the things that really stands out to me is you've got utility at the very core of all things Cronos there. So can you tell me a little bit more about your approach behind this? And by that, I mean developing meaningful use cases, not just for users, but for developers too, especially in a wide range of sectors, from GameFi to DeFi to SocialFi and infrastructure too, right?
From the standpoint of users, the strength of Cronos is really its committed and vocal end user community. So on Twitter, on Reddit, in our Discord server, there's a user base of people who've been associated with the Cronos ecosystem for many years. The Cronos ecosystem at large predates the launch of Cronos Chain. And for example, there are many holders of the Cronos token, which was launched a few years ago, who continue to be extremely committed in the success of the ecosystem. One of the keys to developing useful applications and use cases is, of course, making sure that we listen to those end users, listen to their feedback and everything that they struggle with when they're using the protocol or the dApps. So that's something that we're definitely paying a lot of attention to. And then when it comes to the developer audience, so Cronos is particular in the sense that it's not a technology that was built from the ground up. Rather, it's a mosaic of technical foundations that were put together, borrowing the best from what both the Cosmos ecosystem and the Ethereum ecosystem had to offer. So beyond the team of core contributors to Cronos, there's really the broader community of tens of thousands of developers who are working on open source projects in the Ethereum and Cosmos ecosystems. And we're taking advantage of that to make sure that we're building towards useful and robust use cases as well.
And a big stat that really stood out to me was that Cronos has an addressable user base of 80 million. So it's just phenomenal. But I've got to ask, how do you at Cronos plan to effectively reach and engage with an audience of this size, especially when as you continue to scale too?
As a protocol, I'd say our goal is not to market applications to those to this global user base. So we're being very careful in terms of how we're promoting the ecosystem and making sure that in the end we're not marketing it in ways that put end users at risk. But so really our focus in terms of addressing the user base is on two things. So first, ease of access. I mentioned earlier that we believe that regulated on-ramps and off-ramps are extremely important. We want users to be able to deposit fiat currency and convert it into cryptocurrency easily on Cronos. And we also want to make sure that if they profit from various investment or other activities in crypto, they are able to repatriate their gains into the banking system in ways that are compliant with tax and other authorities. So for us, this partnership with Crypto.com, which was part of the foundation of Cronos, is a really important enabler to addressing that large user base globally in every single country. And of course, the second pillar and the second priority for us is education. So we're paying a lot of attention to user interfaces, the quality of the documentation that apps are publishing. We're pushing very hard to make sure that application developers publish the code of their smart contracts on ChronosCan, which is a block explorer, to make sure that the open source community can review those smart contracts and identify potential vulnerabilities. So we're investing a lot on education and transparency, and together with ease of access, those investments have really paid off.
And there is, of course, increasing talk online and speculation that crypto winter is coming to an end. But considering the volatile market conditions out there, though, are there any risk mitigation strategies that Cronos has implemented to sustain growth and ultimately better build investor confidence at the same time? I appreciate it's a tricky balance, but what are you guys doing around this?
So the market is what it is, and there are external factors that we can't do anything about. I think it's important to realize that the crypto winter is not just a crypto winter. There are major economic difficulties around the world, which are the consequence of inflation, as well as wars that have started, and of course are come higher in the minds of many users as priorities or sources of concerns, compared with blockchain games or DeFi investments. And so, against that backdrop, we know that the climate is going to remain somewhat gloomy for a while. And in that context, where our priority is really to make sure that people understand that Cronos has been around for a while, is here to stay, and therefore, if they build on Cronos or they park assets on the Cronos network, they are, they can be confident that it's a network that is going to be around in 2, 5, or 10 years, and that they can safely commit to this ecosystem while at the same time addressing the other concerns and problems that they have in the broader market. So our priority has really been around projecting a image and projecting messages about of quiet confidence. We've continued to build. We've continued to encourage new applications to launch on Cronos. If you followed our Twitter feed, you will see that every week there are probably 5 new applications who are migrating from another network into Cronos. And then there are new native applications that are launching. I mentioned some of them, but recently Catching, Vino, Fulcrum, those are doing really well, are bringing tens of thousands of users, are bringing value to tens of thousands of users. And so that has been our priority so far.
Love that. And of course, there has been so much hype this year around artificial intelligence and a heap of other emerging technologies. But for me, the real game changer moments will come when all these technologies begin to converge. So if we were to zoom out for a moment, look at the broader industry, how do you see that intersection of AI and blockchain helping to shape the future, not only digital assets, but decentralized technologies too?
In the very short term, we already see many examples of AI enabling blockchain applications to improve the user experience. So, everyone knows that one of the major challenges for new crypto users is that user interfaces are somewhat challenging. The use of self-custodial wallet is stressful, and sometimes protocols are hard to understand. Even though it's not specific to blockchain, it's important to realize that AI can bring a lot of value along those dimensions. So I mentioned chatbots and natural language queries, which companies like Dune Analytics have already started to pioneer. A very good example is also Amy, a chatbot developed by Crypto.com that helps crypto users to ask questions about the technology, decentralized finance, and how to invest and how to use wallets. So I think there is tremendous potential in just making sure that our ecosystems are easier to understand and to use, and AI can help a lot. However, beyond that, I think there are definitely interesting and very profound ways in which AI and blockchain can collaborate. And our accelerator program is, of course, very interested in investing in some of those more advanced trends. And among those advanced trends, I would probably mention 2 of them that I find particularly interesting. So one of them is called, one of them is really around using blockchain technology and crypto to power the AI economy. on one hand, we are seeing AI being ever more concentrated as a technology, in the hands of a few huge tech companies. But at the same time, we can see many users and people from the broader society being really interested in seeing an alternative ecosystem emerging, so that the AI technology is not just controlled by a few very large infrastructure providers. And so there are several protocols who are working on how you can use crypto to create marketplaces where anyone can rent GPU capacity, run models, distribute models, and essentially compete with those mainstream models that are developed by large companies. And there are also startups who are working on a technology called ZK-ML, which makes the power of AI queries available to smart contracts in order to enhance the performance of DeFi investments or the entertainment value of DeFi games. So all those ways that AI and blockchain can collaborate, represent real sources of value added and are very interesting for Accelerator. And finally, the second area of investment that I would mention is the intersection of AI and decentralized identity. We are already seeing a growing number of bots and inauthentic users in every crypto protocol. And of course, that problem is going to become even larger when those bots are able to use large language models to behave and pretend like that they're human. It's not an issue that is specific to crypto. We're also seeing that in social networks, for example. But I think that all the primitives that have been developed around decentralized identity, so the idea that as a user, you can own the credentials that prove who you are, what your name is, that you're above 18, that you're of a certain nationality, that you have certain qualifications or a certain track record. So all those credentials that are powered by decentralized identity can really, in the future, help solve this problem of increasing number of bots and fraudulent users. And I think that's going to be a big wave of innovation as well.
So much food for thought there. And for anybody listening that would just like to find out a little bit more information about Cronos Labs, Cronos blockchain ecosystem, anything we talked about today, maybe they want to join your community and get a little bit more hands-on and involved, where would you like to point everyone listening?
If there is one source of information to mention, I would highlight the Twitter account of Cronos Chain. So it's Cronos_chain, CRONOS_chain. And so, that's really where we constantly publish news about new applications launching on Cronos or expanding into Cronos. We also publish a lot of information about Cronos Labs and the various incentive programs that we have in place for developers. So I encourage you to follow that account.
Awesome. Crypto Twitter is always a great place to start. I will get that added to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. But for me, just love chatting with you today about Cronos Labs, the Web3 startup accelerator, how it's focusing on decentralized finance and blockchain games, but also exploring beyond that, the development of the Cronos blockchain's ecosystem too, and what that could mean for the future and what you're doing around all that. Incredibly cool. Love what you're doing. I'd love to get you back on next year, see how things are further evolving. But more than anything, just thank you for taking the time to sit down and share your insights today.
Thank you, Neil.
So a big thank you to Ken for sharing cutting-edge initiatives and strategies that have helped for propelling Cronos Labs and the broader Cronos ecosystem to incredible new heights. I mean, despite that market volatility, Ken's insights reveal a mature, a measured and a highly strategic approach to a growing blockchain platform that serves both developers and end users, covering an addressable user base that is rapidly approaching 100 million. And I think his focus on the AI in the Cronos Accelerator Program's third cohort presents a very forward-looking view of where blockchain technology could intersect with other disruptive technologies. And as I said at the very beginning, this is what I find incredibly exciting. especially in a world where digitalization and decentralization are becoming increasingly integrated. I honestly think this intersection is not just interesting, it's inevitable. But as always, if you've got any questions for me, or you'd like to come on the podcast, or you disagree with anything we said, or you want to share your story or ask a question, send me an email, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Get me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm just at Neil C. Hughes. Nice and easy to get hold of. There's a seat waiting for you if you'd like to come and join me on here. But more than anything, just a big thank you as always for tuning into this Daily Tech Podcast. Join me again tomorrow. We've got another guest, a completely different topic lined up. But until next time, don't be a stranger.